Hi, I'm Roy Smith. Welcome to my N-scale representation of the Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision. I've been working on my layout for a little over 2 years now, and in this video I'd like to show you the progress I've made. To do this, I'm going to show you some before and after photos. These photos provide convincing evidence that I have indeed been making some progress on my layout, even though it doesn't feel that way sometimes. These photos also show that there isn't a single spot anywhere in my layout that is finished. After looking at the photos, we'll run some trains through my recreation of the high desert area of southwestern Wyoming. I hope you enjoy the video. I drew up a track plan for my layout between February and April 2014. I wanted a double-tracked main line in order to run trains in opposite directions simultaneously through desert scenery. I wanted to base my layout on a real prototype railroad, and for this I selected the Union Pacific's Evanston Subdivision, stretching some 160 miles or so through southwestern Wyoming into northeastern Utah. And I wanted my layout to center on a busy classification yard, hence my choice of Green River, Wyoming. I wanted to capture the feel of this region. As you can see, there is a helix at each end of the layout. The eastern helix takes trains down to staging tracks representing Cheyenne, Wyoming, and the western helix takes trains down to Ogden, Utah. In the future, I will build a third helix to take trains to an upper level representing the Pocatello subdivision, more than doubling my current track length in the process. At that point, my layout will have 3 levels. By April 2014, I completed my track plan and was ready to begin constructing the benchwork. I built the benchwork in my garage, and I built it in sections held together by carriage bolts, so that I could dismantle the sections to carry them up to my train room. As you can see, the level for staging tracks is 48 inches above floor level, the main level is 56 inches above floor level, and the top of the backdrop is 72 inches above floor level, making it higher than my eye level. I varnished the benchwork so that it would look like nice furniture in the house. Then, in August 2014, I carried the layout in sections up to my train room. Okay, let me show you some progress I've made on my layout since hauling it up to the train room 2 years ago. I used a small stepladder to take this unusual photo over the top of the scenic divider on the peninsula part of my layout. As you can see, I built 2 shelves under the layout. On one, I put my printer, modem, and router. The other provides a workbench and a place to put my programming track. I do not plan to put any skirting under my layout because I won't be using that space for storage. The staging tracks are illuminated with LED lighting. Here you see the western end of Green River Yard on my layout, both as it existed in September 2014 and as it currently exists. As the recent photo on the right shows, I have begun to work on structures for the town of Green River. Originally, I wanted to use photos of actual buildings in Green River, but I wasn't happy with the results when I tried to do this. So, I'm now using the fronts of DPM kits instead. This looks pretty good, although it certainly doesn't look anything like the real town of Green River. Instead, it looks a lot like downtown Laramie, some 225 miles east of Green River. Well, model railroading is a series of compromises. This photo provides a view of the main and lower levels. The 2 levels are separated by a vertical clearance of 8 inches. To the left, you see Castle Rock prominently featured in the photo backdrop just north of Green River. One of the first things I had to do was get eastbound trains from Green River on the main level down 8 inches to the staging tracks representing Cheyenne on the lower level. To do this, I bought a Helix kit from Ashland Designs. I call it my Eastern Helix. I built White Mountain to conceal the Helix. Actually, White Mountain is an escarpment stretching some 20 miles or so from Green River to Rock Springs. It is called White Mountain for the thick layers of white sandstone it contains. On my layout, White Mountain is made from sheets of white styrofoam and joint compound and is painted with Woodland Scenic's earth tone pigments. The tunnel you see in this photo is purely fictitious. I built it to hide the Helix. And here you see the benchwork for my Western Helix. I call it this because it takes trains westbound from Green River down to staging tracks representing Ogden, Utah on the lower level. Both of my helixes descend at a 2% grade. The Western Helix is open, as you can see, allowing for easier access to tracks for cleaning and derailments. As the early photo on the left shows, there is a desk for my computer under the benchwork. To the right of the scenic divider on top of the benchwork lies the town of Evanston, Wyoming. I will build the spectacular scenery of Echo Canyon, Utah to the left of the divider. So far, this is the least scenic part of my layout. Here you see my very compressed version of the maintenance and refueling facilities at the west end of Green River Yard. You can also see a pedestrian bridge in the recent photo on the right. This bridge crosses Green River Yard from north to south on both the prototype and on my layout. I built this pedestrian bridge using pieces from 6 different kits, including 2 Z-scale truss bridges. If you look closely, you can see me standing on the south end of the bridge, taking some rail fanning photos with my iPhone. Now let's turn for a moment to the east end of Green River Yard. Here the minimum radius of the curved track beyond the yard is 13 3/4 inches, although it does look a lot tighter than that. So I decided to build a highway bridge to block the view of this curve. Fortunately, such a highway bridge actually exists on the prototype at Green River. I used pieces from 3 different kits to build this highway bridge, including most notably Rick's bridge parts. I made the abutments at either end of the bridge from styrene. I haven't yet installed guardrails along the road. Here's another view of the bridge. For some time the highway stopped just beyond the north end of the bridge, so I called it the Bridge to Nowhere. Eventually, I glued a highway photograph onto the backdrop, and as you can see in the photo on the right, the highway now seems to go somewhere before disappearing in the distance. To me, this adds enormous realism to the scene. And here's a closer view. When I took this photo, I still had not applied road stripes on the bridge, and I still had not painted the 3D scenery in front of the backdrop. And a bit further to the east, I decided to build a transloading facility for propane gas. This facility is purely fictitious and doesn't exist on the prototype. But our model railroads need at least a few industries to justify their existence, just as real railroads do. Unfortunately, there are very few small-scale industries along the UP Evanston Subdivision. In a way, that's okay with me, because I'm mostly interested in interchange operations and yard classification, and I'm not too interested in industrial switching. In any case, Crown Oil and Gas, which you see depicted here, receives bulk shipments of propane gas by rail. The gas is converted into liquid and stored in the cylindrical tanks until it is delivered by truck to homes and industries in the area. And now let's turn west again to the Green River Bridge scene. On the prototype, Green River originates in the Winded Mountains of western Wyoming. It then flows south for something like 730 miles, passing through the town of Green River on the way before joining the Colorado River in Utah. On the prototype, the UP Green River Bridge extends for 7 spans or so, taking westbound trains in the direction of Utah. But on my layout, I only had space for 1 span. As you can see, I built a highway bridge beyond the railroad bridge, mostly with Rick's products. Here you can see some of the scenery work I've done between the west end of the yard and the bridge. Westbound trains leave the Green River yard and almost immediately cross the river bridge, as shown in the following short video. And here's a final view of the west end of Green River Yard. You can expect to see a lot of sagebrush on my layout, but not many trees. Now let's watch a mixed freight train running on the main level of my layout. This train is westbound.